Have you ever wondered why people line up for hours, sometimes days, just to get the newest iPhone? Not because they desperately need it, their old phones usually work fine, but because Apple has mastered something far more powerful than selling products. They sell desire. And that desire isn't accidental. It's carefully crafted, down to the smallest detail. Every curve, every box, even the sound when you open a MacBook. It's all designed to evoke emotion. Apple has achieved what most businesses dream of. Their customers don't just buy products, they crave them. So how do they do it? And more importantly, what can any business learn from Apple's design of desire? Before we dive in, if this video sparks even one new idea, hit the like button and subscribe. It's simple, but it helps me bring more insights like this. Apple's secret isn't about technology. It isn't specs, speed, or features. It's psychology. Think back to the first time you held an iPhone. The weight, the smoothness of the glass, the way it fit in your hand. It didn't feel like just another phone. It felt futuristic. That's no accident. Apple obsesses over details most companies ignore. How heavy should it feel? Should it feel slightly cool to the touch to signal premium quality? How should the screen respond, fast but not too fast, so it feels intuitive? These invisible decisions shape emotions. Once emotions are engaged, logic follows. That's why someone who claims they don't need a new phone still buys one. At its core, Apple leverages anticipation. Launches feel like events. They build suspense, leak just enough to fuel rumors, and drop announcements that feel like cultural moments. A product isn't just a device, it's a story. Humans are wired for stories. When Steve Jobs introduced the first iPhone in 2007, he didn't start with features. He built suspense, repeatedly telling the audience they were about to see three products: a widescreen iPod, a revolutionary phone, and a breakthrough internet communicator. Then he revealed, "These are not three devices. This is one device." The crowd went wild. It was theater. And it worked. Because it wasn't about what the product did. It was about how it made people feel. No matter what you sell, you're not selling a product. You're selling a feeling. Think of your favorite brand outside Apple. Maybe sneakers, coffee, or a watch. You don't choose purely for function. You choose how it makes you feel. Confidence, status, comfort, identity. Apple mastered the art of attaching emotion to objects. Apple doesn't start with the product. They start with the experience. Walk into an Apple store. Wide spaces, clean lines, wooden tables with devices like art in a gallery. Employees roam to assist, not just stand behind registers. You don't feel like you're in a store. You feel in a temple. This is intentional. Apple designs spaces that invite exploration. You're not rushed, you discover. The product sells itself because you've sold it to yourself. Lesson: don't push products. Design environments that let customers pull them toward themselves. Make them feel in control. Even packaging is part of this. Opening a new iPhone box is almost theatrical. Apple engineers friction into the cardboard to make the slide feel luxurious. First interactions set the tone for the entire experience. This is the psychology of unboxing, and Apple turned it into an art form. It's why unboxing videos dominate YouTube. Apply this to your own work. Consider the first touch point. How can you make it spark curiosity, excitement, or delight? Most businesses obsess over post-purchase, but Apple knows the emotional journey before and during is the product. Apple makes you want things you don't need, and you don't feel manipulated. Why? Because products are framed as tools for self-expression. Classic iPod ads, silhouettes dancing against bright backgrounds. You didn't see specs, you saw joy, energy, freedom. The device was the gateway to the feeling. This is identity-based marketing. Instead of what the product does, focus on who the customer becomes. Apple's slogan, "Think Different," isn't about the company. It's about you as a creator, rebel, innovator. But desire without credibility is empty. Apple backs desire with obsessive attention to detail. Aluminum bodies are stronger and cooler to the touch. Interfaces are intuitive and fast. Marketing promises and product reality align. That alignment builds trust, turning buyers into lifelong fans. Most businesses copy Apple's marketing without substance. Desire is fragile. Anticipation without delivery destroys credibility. Apple rarely fails here. Products live up to or exceed expectations, keeping customers returning. Lessons so far. Design for emotion, not just function. Build anticipation like a story. Deliver on promises to compound trust. Apple taps into a universal human need for meaning. The first Macintosh ad in 1984 wasn't about speed or specs. It was about freedom, individuality, and breaking conformity. The ad showed a woman smashing a screen, symbolizing Big Brother, promising empowerment. People believed it, not because the machine was perfect, but because it symbolized something bigger. Final layer. Give people a story larger than the object. Buying Apple isn't just a device purchase. It's joining a narrative. You are creative, independent, forward-thinking. That's why desire lasts. But there's something fascinating. Desire alone doesn't explain Apple's cultural grip. If it were just sleek products or clever ads, other companies would have copied it. Samsung, Huawei, Dell, Microsoft, they all release advanced devices, often with better specs. Yet people don't camp outside their stores overnight, and their launches rarely feel like cultural events. Apple understands something others miss. It's not just the device, it's ritual. Apple's launch events feel like ceremonies, darkened stages, hushed audiences. The legendary "one more thing." This mirrors ancient rituals: anticipation, revelation, celebration. These moments create community, binding people together. Even if you've never been to a store, watching a keynote makes you part of the congregation. Rituals extend beyond launches. The yearly upgrade cycle, peeling the protective film. The Mac starting up. Small repeated actions carry meaning beyond their function. They signal belonging. Humans crave identity in groups, not isolation. Apple turns customers into a tribe. Tribes defend beliefs fiercely. Debates between Apple and Android users feel ideological, not just functional. Owning an iPhone is a statement about who you are. Insight. Transform customers into community members, and you move beyond transactions. Loyalty becomes difficult to break. A tribe needs contrast. Apple understood this from the start. Think Different positioned users against conformity. The 1984 ad set Apple against oppressive control. "I'm a Mac, I am a PC," drew sharp lines between Apple's cool identity and Microsoft's corporate image. Storytelling at its sharpest. Us versus them. Whether you love Apple or hate them, you remember the story. Apple creates desire by balancing simplicity with aspiration. Look at their products. Clean lines, minimal buttons, intuitive gestures. Technology feels natural, simple enough for anyone to use, refined enough to impress designers. Simplicity hides complexity until needed. The iPhone home screen looks simple, but layers of power lie beneath. Lesson: hide complexity for the customer's sake. Make things look effortless, even if behind the scenes it's intricate. People fall in love with ease, not effort. Simplicity alone doesn't sell. You need status. Owning an iPhone signals identity. Apple devices are modern badges. I'm creative, successful, future-oriented. Status marketing isn't arrogance, it's aspiration. The more people see Apple devices in public or on influencers, the more ordinary customers crave that identity. It's association psychology at scale. Apple also designs products as narratives. The MacBook's glowing logo broadcasted identity without words. When trends shifted, Apple removed it, adapting the story. Constant evolution keeps desire alive. Repeat formulas make people numb. Apple reinvents enough to surprise but not alienate. They remove features like the headphone jack not to frustrate, but to create attention. Controversy fuels conversation, and conversation fuels desire. Apple isn't flawless. AntennaGate with iPhone 4 could have been a disaster, but Apple reframed it, offered solutions, reminded customers that flaws exist in all phones. The brand survived. Takeaway: when designing desire, design resilience. Mistakes happen, but if your story and emotional connection are strong, people forgive. Apple also builds patience into their audience. Waiting lists and delays aren't failures, they're part of the theater. Scarcity fuels desire. Waiting becomes part of the story. I had to fight to get this. That struggle makes the final purchase sweeter. Scarcity, ritual, identity, status. Ancient human levers, modernized by Apple effortlessly. What does this mean for anyone not Apple? For small businesses, freelancers, or creators, the lessons are clear. Sell stories, not products. People want transformation, not features. Show who they could become. Design experiences, not just objects. From website to packaging, first email to final delivery, every touchpoint sparks emotion. Create rituals, repeatable actions, predictable rhythms, or shared events bring customers together. Launches, updates, even brand traditions build community. Embrace scarcity strategically. Curate, don't flood the market. Make your audience feel exclusive. Back hype with substance. Desire collapses if you don't deliver. Consistent delivery builds trust and loyalty. These steps are practical, universal. You may not be Apple, but the psychology of desire applies to a billion-dollar smartphone or a handmade Etsy product. You don't need Apple's budget. You need their mindset. Think like a designer of emotions, not just a seller. Ask, how should my customer feel at every step? What story am I telling? What ritual am I creating? What identity am I reinforcing? Thriving companies aren't those with the most features or lowest prices. They read the ones that make people feel. Looking ahead, desire isn't static. Apple evolves with technology. Services, wearables, ecosystems, they're selling lifestyles. Apple Watch tells identity. AirPods signal culture. Apple designs worlds, not just products. Greatest lesson: future-proof your business by thinking ecosystems. How does one product connect to another? How does one experience lead to the next? How do you keep people not just buying, but living inside your world? Once inside, leaving feels impossible. So here we are, at the deepest layer of the Apple playbook. We've talked about emotion, anticipation, rituals, scarcity, identity. But there is one last element that ties it all together. An element that explains why people don't just buy Apple products once and move on, but stay year after year inside the ecosystem. It's the idea of seamless integration. Think about it. Most tech companies make products. Apple makes systems. Your iPhone connects flawlessly with your MacBook. Your AirPods instantly pair with your devices. Your Apple Watch unlocks your laptop without a password. You move from one product to the next, and it feels like magic. No frustration, no endless menus, no confusing steps. Just flow. This seamlessness creates two things at once. First, it delights the user. You feel smart, empowered, in control. And second, it locks you in. Once you've invested in one Apple product, buying another feels natural, almost inevitable. Why buy headphones that don't integrate perfectly with your phone? Why buy a laptop that won't sync your notes instantly? Suddenly, leaving the ecosystem doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like losing comfort. That's how Apple designs not just desire, but dependence. Not dependence in a negative sense, but dependence born of convenience, of trust. And this is a masterclass for every business. Because if you can connect your products or services in a way that makes people's lives easier, they won't want to leave. They'll want to stay, because switching feels like starting over. Now here's where it gets even more fascinating. Apple doesn't shout about integration in their ads. They don't fill billboards with words like ecosystem. They let you discover it. You buy one product because you desire it. And then, step by step, you're drawn deeper into the web of convenience. It's a strategy built not on force, but on gravity. And gravity is irresistible. But let's ask an important question. Why does this work on such a deep psychological level? The answer lies in something every human craves: control. In a world that feels increasingly chaotic, where technology often overwhelms rather than empowers, Apple promises control. Their interfaces are predictable. Their hardware is reliable. Their experiences are consistent. When you hold an Apple product, you don't feel at the mercy of technology. You feel like you are the one in command. That sense of control is intoxicating. It makes people loyal, not just because of desire, but because of relief. Relief that, for once, technology isn't fighting them, it's serving them. And here's the lesson for everyone else. Whatever you sell, ask yourself, does it give people a greater sense of control in their lives? Does it simplify, clarify, empower? Because if it does, you're no longer just selling a product. You're selling peace of mind. And peace of mind is priceless. But Apple goes beyond peace of mind. They also sell dreams of the future. Every Apple keynote, every commercial, carries the same undertone. Tomorrow is better than today, and Apple is the bridge that takes you there. It's not just a phone, it's the future of communication. It's not just a computer, it's the future of creativity. It's not just a watch, it's the future of health. This future-oriented narrative is magnetic. People don't want to be left behind. They want to feel like they're living ahead of the curve, like they're part of tomorrow before it arrives. Apple gives them that feeling. And notice, Apple rarely talks about being the cheapest. In fact, they often cost more than competitors. But that's the genius. Because when you buy Apple, you're not buying a tool. You're buying time travel. You're buying the chance to live in the future today. And people will pay dearly for that. Here's the contradiction though. Apple designs for the future, but they ground their products in the familiar. The iPhone may be revolutionary, but it still looks and feels intuitive, almost obvious. The iPad may have seemed radical, but using it felt as natural as flipping through a magazine. Apple understands that people fear change even as they crave it. So they design change that feels safe. They give you the future in doses you can handle. This balance between novelty and familiarity is critical. Too much novelty and people panic. Too much familiarity and people get bored. Apple dances on the knife's edge, and if you want to create desire in your own work, that's the balance to aim for. Enough newness to excite, enough familiarity to comfort. But there's something else to learn from Apple's story. Something almost paradoxical. For all their innovation, for all their futurism, Apple's deepest appeal isn't about technology at all. It's about humanity. Think of their ads. They're rarely about processors, memory, or specs. They're about people. A father capturing his daughter's first steps on an iPhone. A musician composing on a MacBook. A runner tracking their heartbeat with an Apple Watch. Technology fades into the background. Humanity takes the spotlight. That's the ultimate trick. Apple makes technology disappear. They make you forget you're using a machine, so you feel like you're simply living your life. The product becomes invisible, and you become more visible to yourself. And this is where every business, every creator, can take a page from Apple. Stop centering the product. Start centering the person using it. Don't ask, what can this do? Ask, Who can this help someone become? Because desire doesn't live in features. It lives in transformation. And now we reach the final question. What does all of this mean for the future of business itself? Because make no mistake, Apple's way of designing desire isn't just about selling phones. It's shaping consumer expectations for every industry. People now expect seamlessness, anticipation, community, identity, future-forward design, not just from Apple, but from everyone. If you're a small business, your customer doesn't compare you only to competitors in your niche. They compare you to the best experience they've ever had. And often, that means Apple. So the challenge is clear. If you want to survive, let alone thrive, you need to think beyond the product. You need to design desire. That means crafting stories, not just campaigns. That means engineering experiences, not just transactions. That means giving people meaning, not just objects. And yes, that's hard. It takes more than a checklist of tactics. It requires empathy, imagination, discipline. It requires seeing your business not as a factory of products, but as a stage where emotions unfold. But if you can do it, even at a small scale, the results are transformative. Because here's the final truth. People don't remember features. They remember feelings. They don't remember the gigahertz of a processor. They remember how it felt the first time their laptop turned on instantly, without the usual lag. They don't remember the megapixels of a camera. They remember the photo that captured a moment they'll never forget. Feelings last, features fade. Apple understood this decades ago, and it has made them one of the most valuable companies in history. Not because they built the best machines, but because they built the strongest desires. And that is the lesson for every business, every creator, every entrepreneur. Design not just for function, not just for aesthetics, but for emotion, for ritual, for meaning. Don't just ask what people will buy. Ask what people will long for. Because in the end, success doesn't belong to those who sell the most. It belongs to those who are remembered the longest. So the next time you see someone unboxing a new iPhone, eyes wide, smiling like a child on Christmas morning, don't just see a product. See the invisible work behind it, the psychology, the storytelling, the design of desire. And then ask yourself, how can I design desire in my own work? Because that's the path forward. Not just for Apple, but for anyone who dares to create something that matters. Thanks for watching. And if this video gave you even one idea you can use, subscribe for more.